situation with you. This is what you do. Got me checking my phone like there's something I missed. Every time you slide through, you make me. Ooh, you make me wanna stay up way too late, reading every little thing you say. This is what you do. Got me thinking about you more than I probably should, and that ain't good. You make me. Before anything strange happened between us, you was just somebody I talked to. Little back and forth jokes on the post, nothing deep, nothing I thought through. And somehow every time my screen light up, I'm hoping somehow that it's you. Even when you irritated me, I still read every word straight through. And honestly, I hate that part, that little rush when you appear. Half the time you're getting under my skin, other half I want you near. Now I'm sitting here replaying conversations at like 3 a.m. Trying to figure out if this tension means something or just internet again. You made me wanna leave this space I'm in, start a whole new situation with you. This is what you do. Got me checking my phone like there's something I missed. Every time you slide through, you make me. What's bad is you know exactly what you're doing. Every little jab got intention. You play mean and disappear for hours, like you feeding off attention. And you come back casual, like nothing. Drops online, throw one emoji. Now I'm right back reacting. And I know this probably sound ridiculous, grown man caught in a loop, but it's something about the way you talk, like every shot ain't straight and smooth. One minute I wanna block you forever, next minute I wait for your reply. That's probably unhealthy as hell. Still, here I am online. Should I cut this off? Should I leave it alone? Why every little interaction follow me home? And maybe it ain't love, maybe it's ego. Maybe I just got too used to needing a reload. Start a whole new situation with you. This is what you do. Got me checking my phone like there's something I missed. Every time you slide through, you make me. You made me wanna stay with attention, live, even when I know what this probably is. This is what you do. Got me caught between log off and one more reply. Every damn night you make me. Yeah. You know what you're doing. Yeah. Log off. Touch grass, touch me, babe girl, please. You made me.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, yeah. Life and laws, choice and cost. Somebody waking up. Same time, somebody somewhere realizing they gave too much. Yeah, that's how it go. And people swear they didn't know. Like the signs ain't been there the whole time. Just moving slow. Yeah. See, I don't watch people talk like they want peace. They manufacture confusion just to feel hard to reach. Seen pride where intelligence like a tailor disguise. Whole personality built around never being surprised. Seen people call it growth when it's really retreat. Call it healing when it's distance with a prettier speech. Call it standards when it's filled with better posture and tone. Whole life curated just to never feel fully known. I seen soft people play hard people collapse. Seen men call it logic while emotion leak through the cracks. Yeah, seen women call it intuition when control's in the room. Everybody want the truth until it start sounding like you. This ain't just talk, this pattern work, this pressure red. This what people do when they starving but don't know what they need. It's for the ones at the crossroads, dressed in self-respect, still using other people's eyes to decide what they reflect. And what is life? A bunch of versions fighting for air. A bunch of I'm fines piled up in a body that's barely there. A bunch of names, roles, labels, stories people protect. And most of what they call self is just what they ain't questioned yet. Resla is life. That quiet thought that don't leave when the room get loud. Resla is life. That feeling when the truth lands and your pride sit down. Resla is life. A mirror with pressure, no filter, no soft disguise. Resla is life. What people avoid when they sweat, they self-aware inside. I'm like watching somebody laugh through a life they don't respect. Like I'm just figuring it out when really they scared of what's next. I'm like every almost choice that still haunts you at 2 a.m. Like I could have been that version if you moved before it ended. I'm like realizing too late that comfort got a body count. Like staying still so long you forget what the doubt's about. Yeah. I'm like potential with a shelf life. Windows closing in silence. Like indecisions dressed as peace while your future die from compliance. I'm like every friendship's built on access instead of care. Like people saying I got you as long as it's easy there. I'm like clout in a crisis, fake morals with good branding. Like kneeling to whoever's lit and calling it understanding. I'm like a man with a platform, still unsure who he is. Like a woman saying I'm here while choosing what to spite. I'm like the pause after somebody say that's just how I am. Knowing damn well that sentence usually means don't look too close at this. I'm like A showing up and not a fantasy thing. Like you realizing time ain't rude, it just don't pretend. I'm like every version of you that died from waiting too long. Every door you thought would stay open just because you thought they belong. And what is truth? Not comfort, not aesthetic, not vibe, not a quote you post at midnight just to feel more alive. Truth is what survives when the language gets stripped away. And most people ain't lost, they just been avoiding what they know to face. Resla is life. That quiet thought that don't leave when the room get loud.
All right, what's up, y'all? What's going on?
That feeling when the truth lands and your pride sits.
How's everything going on with you guys?
A mirror with pressure, no filter, no soul.
All right, let's just get this one off. It's a really late stream. I want to go live at regular time, but I am dealing with some things in my personal life right now, and I need to be available at a beck and call. to put it very frank. As we are going through the rest of this quarter, I want to bring up something that in reference to this whole thing that I've been talking about when it comes to attention. And I kind of want to go over this idea of how people look at themselves and very specifically the people that we have in our minds, you know. I think I want to say that tonight we should really start thinking about where things start getting dangerous. And I don't think people just want to experience anymore. I think what they want are witnesses. I think a lot of us just don't really feel like we're seeing anymore. And because of that, we're moving and we're performing in ways that are not necessarily have been the best for ourselves, but also for how just humanity moves, specifically now. So I want you to think about that for a moment. What I'm just saying to you. I don't want you to answer right away, but actually just think about it. Who are you performing for? Should be a simple enough question, right? Who exactly are you performing for? Not online, not work, not school, not on camera. Right now, who are you performing for? Who are you spending your time thinking about? Because I think I think most people don't really realize what they're doing in the moment. I don't think a lot of people are staying up at night or going through their mornings and saying, you know what, today I am going to spend my entire day worrying about imaginary people and what the hell they're thinking. Nobody says that. But people do it anyway. That's what I've come to notice. You ever catch yourself? This is something I thought was very interesting today. You ever catch yourself having an argument in your head, not with somebody who's standing right there in front of you, just in your head with somebody who's probably been in your life, but no one is actually there at the time when it's taking place. And it can happen pretty much anywhere. You could be driving, you could be in the shower, you could be working from home, walking home, you can be laying in your bed, whatever. And somehow you're explaining yourself to a person that isn't in the room. Why is that? Who are you talking to? Who are you trying to convince? I've done it. I'm not going to pretend that I'm above it, for sure. I've caught myself replaying conversations that happened years ago, months ago, thinking of the perfect response to something that already took place. 3 years too late, 2 years too late, a month too late. What good does that do now? None. But the brain will still hold you in it to make you think that is important. And that's when I started wondering how much of life is actually being lived and how much of it is actually just being rehearsed. Question for you guys. And be honest. How many of you have ever won an argument that was in your head? Simple enough question. How many of you actually won an argument that was sitting in your head only to realize the other person wasn't there? I was laughing when I was thinking about it because I know I've done that. And I know I've had conversations with people who've actually done that. Now, come on. I know I cannot be the only person who has done that. There's no way in hell I'm the only one. And I'm pretty sure you've done it, or you've seen somebody else do it, or somebody else has even told you that. Everybody has done it at some point of their life. Now, I got another question. Why? Simple. Why is it that we do that? I think a lot of people set themselves up for an invisible crowd or a visible person that's not there, but we think that we need to set ourselves up for. Again, not physically, mentally. It could be your parents, it could be your boss, it could be your ex, maybe your favorite creator, maybe your biggest cynic. Maybe it's one of your most personal critics. That one teacher from 20 years ago, that random comment that somebody left on a video of yours. They're gone. Long gone. But they're still talking in your head. Not because they're saying anything meaningful at that time, because you've memorized what they probably said. So before you make a decision, you hear them. Before you post something, you hear them. Before you say something, you hear them. And for a while, you stop asking yourself what you think and you start asking what they'll think. Think about that for a moment. You start relinquishing personal thoughts into what the probable thoughts of somebody else might be thinking who's not even there for the conversation. That is a hell of a way to live. Because eventually your life stops being directly stop being directed by reality. It's directed by possible predictions. You start negotiating with people that don't even know the negotiations taking place. Think about this one. Has somebody ever changed the way that you've ever acted? I'm talking about without a single word, nothing said to you, just, and you decided to adjust yourself accordingly. Not because that they told you, but because you imagine what they'd be thinking. I think a lot of us learn that early when it comes to our parents or when it comes to partners that we're dealing with. Maybe it's even a work situation where they understood maybe a little bit about something about the room that you didn't, or how people should behave, and maybe you weren't really thinking at that time that you were doing the right thing. There could be so many different reasons for it. Because if somebody can influence your behavior, especially without opening their mouths, who's really making the decisions? Something to think about. I think there's a prison that nobody sees. And I think this is one of the most overlooked prisons that people put themselves in. Nobody locked the doors. Nobody made the rules. Nobody handed you something that you had to go over in your head about. But somewhere along the way, you started editing yourself, not because somebody stopped you, not because you stopped yourself. Just think about how many times you've almost said something and immediately thought, nah, people are they're gonna think something about it. They're gonna say something about it. And I think about that. People. What people? Name them. Can you? Usually you can't. It's just people. This giant invisible crowd. This jury that somehow always exists. And because I think that they exist in your head. And for some reason, they get a vote. Sometimes they get to decide on a vote. That's a scary thought, or rather, it should be a scary thought. Because you're not making decisions, you're taking polls. Pause. And the audience doesn't even know that they're voting, because you're giving them power even though there's no reason to do so. How many decisions have you made like this over the year? Because you wanted to avoid embarrassment, not because you were wrong, but I mean, not even because your intent is to hurt someone. Maybe because you didn't want people talking. How many times do you think you've done this? By the way, don't have to answer me. Answer yourself. Because I think the number when it comes to probability is probably high. It's probably higher than most people will realize. And here's the question that keeps coming back and forth. If nobody ever found out, what would you still make? Sorry, if no one ever found out, would you still make that same decision? No one ever said shit to you. Would you still make that same decision? When I think about that, I'm always thinking about the people who are going to make future decisions, future predictions based on the possibility of living witnesses. And I think that gets very dangerous. I don't think people just want experience anymore. Experience used to be the key driving factor for a lot of people. It's why a lot of people went on vacations, especially in a group or as a couple or whatever, because they wanted to go through the experience. They want to have an experience that people didn't really have. It's one of the reasons why people go to social settings like bars and clubs or anything. It's not necessarily because they want to pay the overprice cost, but they're there for, quote, the experiences, right? But think about that. Is that something that we go through anymore? I don't think people just want experiences anymore. Because if people were still very much interested in experiences, I don't think that they would pick up their phone consistently to take pictures of food or where they are or ask people to take pictures of them. I'm like, where's your memories at? You know, where's your memories? Are you going to remember that experience, or you're going to have something in your head to remind you that even took place? I mean, have you ever? Now that I think about it, when was the last time you did something that nobody else knew about? When was the last time that you did something that no one else knew about? And I don't mean taking a shit. And not because you were hiding, because it was enough that you knew. You ever notice how fast people will reach for their phones? And I'm going to say it again. They'll do it for a meal. You go for a meal. Go for a meal. Phone. Go for vacation. Phone. You go for a concert. Phone. A new relationship. Hey, you know, a guy posts on new relationships. Phone. Oh, I got a promotion. Get a little plaque or you get a little handshake or whatever. Phone. How many times are we going to go through phones in our lives? And again, I'm not saying that there's something wrong with taking pictures. I'm saying there is something different about it. Our views on experience. Would the moment have meant less if nobody knew that it happened? That's the question. That is the question. Because if the answer is yes, then maybe the experience wasn't enough. Maybe the witnesses became more important than the part of the experience. And that's interesting to me. Because somewhere along the path, somewhere along the way, people stopped asking, did I enjoy this? And now it's I wonder what everybody else is going to think. Those are completely different questions. Question for you guys. How many pictures are you still sitting on in your phone that you've never posted? Now, did those memories suddenly become worth less because nobody else saw them? It's a question for you. We take pictures. We don't post them everywhere on social media. When you go through your phone, take yourself a moment right now. Go through your phone, look at your gallery, and just think like, damn, I didn't post any of these pictures. Are these pictures now, because you didn't post them, are they worth less than the experience that you had when you were there taking them, simply because other people didn't get to see that you experienced it? Something to think about. No, this is not attention versus personal experience. This is about the audience that you have in your head. The audience that keeps popping up in your head for when you probably should have personal satisfaction. Is it actual personal satisfaction, or is it only satisfaction if other people get to experience what you experience? Me sitting at the park watching a sunset, that could be a really good personal thing that's satisfying. Is it though? If I turn around and say, me enjoying the sunset and then posting it, is that more satisfying than the actual experience of me seeing the sunset myself? And yet people will sit there at their favorite bench or at their favorite spot or whatever and watch the sunset. And instead of enjoying it, they post it. What's more important then? Your personal experience or everybody seeing your personal experience? By the way, we're diving into the, if you really want to look at it this way, just from that what I just said there, right? When you're talking about this attention versus personal satisfaction, right? This is where we can actually start getting into the whole aspect of people who are like IRL. You can go through life and do these things and have a lot of fun, but is it worth it if no one else gets to see it? And what does that say about people? Are these things that we're doing, are they part of our identity, or are we borrowing identity? Because I think a lot of people borrow more identities than they realize. And by the way, not because that they are fake, but because borrowing a sense of identity is easier. It is, you feel more confident, you feel more at peace, you feel more risky when you're pretending to be someone else rather than being more that's authentically you. You can spend enough time around certain people, you can start sounding like them. You can spend enough time watching certain creators, and all of a sudden you start repeating them, their phrases, their thought processes. You spend enough time inside one community and you start inheriting the opinions without ever noticing it. It's a nice, swift, and subtle indoctrination. That is why I keep telling people, pay attention to whose voice lives in your head. Because after a while, you're going to stop knowing where your opinion ends and someone else's begins. You ever catch yourself saying, I've always believed such and such and such. And then halfway through it, you realize, no, actually, that's not true. You started believing that after watching somebody else talk about it. It's like when we hear people and we watch people or celebrities or people that we are inspired by, and we see their qualities and we say, I love what they're saying there. I love what they're saying there. That's me. The values that they're talking about, that's me. But you never actually implemented those values. They sound nice. You would love that to be a part of you, but you never actually tested those values to actually understand if they are part of your character. They sound nice. You would love to expound those characteristics, those values to be a part of you, but you've done no testing to actually see if they fit within the core of your character and in the real life. Because in order to have particular values, you have to be able to express them. You have to be able to test them, to put them through battle. You have to be willing to get punched in the mouth for them. And a lot of people don't do this. A lot of people say, this is me and this is what I stand for, but never actually in their own real life put it to the test. Been willing to go take an ass whooping for it, get an ass whooping for it, and still hold on to it. A lot of people will say, this is me, and they'll say particular things like when they're following creators, get punched in the mouth or get shamed or whatever, and they turn on and they, I'm not doing that shit again. I'm not saying that shit again. I'm not doing that shit again because this is the results. And if you gave up on it, guess what? Those are not your values. They are not your values. You might start believing something after you're watching someone actually say it because it sounds nice. That doesn't mean it's you. And by the way, I'm not even saying that the values that you heard from a person are wrong. I'm asking, did you ever make those values your own? Because you can't just hear it and then say, that's me and my philosophy. You actually have to go out into the real world and test it and make it a part of your foundation. Hearing things is cute. Practice, implementing is way harder. Did you ever make it your own? Or did you just move it into your head and unpack it? Because it's not a bag. You actually have to use the things that are in your bag. Let me ask you guys something. What's one opinion that you've changed in the last 5 years? Not because somebody beat you in an argument, because I think a lot of people are going to run to that one, but because you actually thought about it and then you said, yeah, I don't believe what I once believed anymore. I have a new opinion now. When was the last time that happened? You actually thought about something that you may have believed. You mull over it in your head and you changed your opinion, and you didn't need someone else to defeat you in an argument to do so. I know I'm asking you for 5 years, so it might be a little much for some of you guys. You know, some of you guys can't remember the last 3 years in your fucking life. Last year in your life. Some of you guys have been walking through a mental coma. Some of you guys have been going through a coma. You've been in a vegetative state. You've just been consuming, but you haven't actually performed any real brain activity. You've been passively instructed and programmed. And now I'm asking you to think about yourself. Have you actually thought about it? Blind, you said feminism. Okay. It could be a lot for some people. But by the way, the aspect of you thinking about something like this, like, damn, what's something that I held on to for a while and I did change my mind and I didn't need someone else to point out something to make me change my mind. And for the people who actually found something in their life that they could do that with, that interests me. Changing your mind doesn't make you weak. Never asking where your opinions come from, to me, that's weak. That's a problem. Because so many people that we see, especially online, will tell you catchphrases. They will give you quotes. They will give you all this different shit, right? And they go, and if you get somebody like me and go, that's interesting. Where did you hear that from? You know, they'll try to lie, be like, oh, I've always believed that. Really? In order for you to believe that, you have to have come from a consensus. So what were the things that you happen to go apart in life that made you come to this consensus? And the sad part about it is that you can hear it in people's speech, or you can focus when you're actually watching a person in real life to know whether they are stating an actual event that happened within their life, or are they trying to mimic the stories that come from other people. Because all you have to do is ask additional questions. And at some point, a person may fumble and say, why do you keep asking me all these questions? I don't know. It was years ago. Okay, well, it was years ago. How many years? Because you can remember that much. But people don't like being questioned on things that are not really their experience. That should be obvious. But people also don't expect things to be questioned because they believe it's convincing enough to believe, because they were convinced easily to believe it when they first heard it. Does that or does that not make sense? And you can only know this when you spend a lot of time around people, because you're developing not only your own skills for communication, but also you develop your own skills for manipulation. And I'm going to be honest with that. Some people can hear things that are very awe-inspiring and they bring it onto themselves, and they may even bring it onto other people. But when challenged on it, they don't have the framework, because the blueprint is not theirs. The blueprint is borrowed. And instead of just saying, this is where I heard it from, they lie to themselves and say, I'm going to say these things as if it's my life. Which is it's so crazy, because I went through this with somebody recently where I was giving my own story about things that happened in my life, and they asked me a whole bunch of questions, and I was laying it down. It happened here. It was this year. It was this person. I could tell you where I met them at. In fact, if they're gonna pick up the phone, or if they still got the same phone number, I can probably go back into my Google contacts and probably still find them and pull them up in a conversation. Hell, you guys have seen some of you guys who have had conversation with me offline or whatever, where I'm like, yo, I'm so much of an asshole that my mom will agree to it. And they're like, oh, please. And I've called my mom. I've called my mom and say, hey, how much of an asshole I am? And she says that shit real. And they start laughing. They're like, I can't believe you did that. And I'm just like, well, I'm a lie. Like, people have had many backside conversations with me, and they're just like, you talk about your girl, but we never heard. And I'm like, yo, hey. She come right over and she starts talking, and they're like, holy shit, she really exists. Because we have so many guys out there that love to talk about how they are this and they are that, and they got women, and then when you ask them for any proof, even just a little social proof, because they're continuously talking about it, they cannot provide evidence, or where they work, or how they dress, or whatever. And it's so interesting, because people love to say things. They love to try to build narratives or stories about themselves to inflate their own standings in the world. But most people, especially you guys who are viewers, right? And I say this, question everything and question everyone. Now, that doesn't mean that, and I can get into that too, doesn't mean that you are also entitled to everything in a person's life. I think some of you guys go too far. I think a lot of you guys go too far in believing that because you are viewing somebody who decides to share their point of view or to share a certain aspect of their life, that now you feel entitled to know everything about them, when the truth of the matter is that you do nothing to contribute to their lives. This is like, I ignore people that hear the kind of work that I do, and then they want to ask me for professional advice or financial advice or whatever. And I'm just like, that's not my role. That's not my understanding. Same way how people will come to me and they want to ask me about things as to what to do about their own personal troubles or whatever. And I tell them, you need to go see a mental health professional. It is what it is. Like, people lose the aspect of it. When we first started building this thing out in the internet, right? A lot of people did want a lot of advice. They want, and they were looking for people who had a certain amount of experience to be able to get that, whether you were PUAs or former divorcees or widowers or whatever. But there's so many grifters, charlatans, scammers, that people cannot tell the wheat from the chaff. They can't. And because there are just so many opinions more now than ever, it's a big difference between 2026 and 2006 that everybody will just now jump on the bandwagon of the person who sounds not even the most convincing. It's the person who sounds the most charismatic. They don't question what they hear because they don't ask questions. They think it sounds cool and they run with it. And I mention this because I mention this as a creator, but creators are not the only performers. But let's bring it online. Let's bring it online. Everybody talks about creators performing. Fair enough. Fair enough. Some do. I have done so on a time from time. But why do we stop there? Because I see a lot of you guys, viewers, commenters, mods, chatters, also perform too. Panelists perform. Some people don't even type what they're actually thinking. They just go straight into talking points. And they type what they think will get the biggest reaction. They type for attention. If their idea was really as great as they assumed that it would be, it would get the creator's attention and you would have no need to even at them. Think about that for a moment. There are some people like, I got this great thing I'm going to say, watch, it's going to be so awesome. And they at the creator. If your point was so fucking awesome, why would you feel the need to at me? I would just see it, think to myself, that's interesting, and just reply to it. Why do you feel the need to at me? Maybe you're not as confident in the thing that you're trying to say as you think you are. And I don't mean just to me, I mean for any creator. In fact, I see so many creators that turn around and say, hey, do not at me when you're talking in the chat. Don't at me. Don't scream for my attention. Stop trying to get my attention. Because you're being disrespectful to everybody else who's also in the chat. You do it yourself. You say sometimes you temper yourself. You said your mom says you're handsome. Oh, okay, you're lying. Oh, that's a shame. That's a shame. I mean, think about when it comes to some of these people. They ask questions because they think it'll make them look funny. They think that it'll make them look smart. Some people don't disagree because they actually disagree. They disagree because disagreement gets them attention. You know what I've noticed? I've noticed it for some time. Some people completely change depending on whose channel, whose room that they're in. Some people, it's a different audience. It's a different personality. And for some reason, that's not confidence. When you're moving into a place, different places, different rooms, different creators, you adapting to the situation for something that you already know you're about to say because apparently it's your beliefs, it's your prerogatives, your values, right? But you're changing it up because you're not really sure if what you're saying is about to really fly. Didn't we just talk about values and personal experience and everything? you shouldn't be worried about it, because you know that what you believe, at least from your own personal experience, to be true. And if it's something relatable to many other people, it should just fly, right? But yeah, I'm not gonna say it because, you know, like maybe people are not really gonna like what I have to say, because maybe this room about, you know, like female dating or whatever is not gonna be very cool if I start talking about my own personal experience. And I'm thinking, well, if your personal experience is dealing with females, right? Should you not be more confident about that? Or are you just calibrating because the shit that you're saying right now is not really your own personal experience? It's an experience from a content creator or people on a panel or whatever, and what they say, and you want to use their experience to flood another person's ideals, thoughts, opinions, sentiments, and pass them off as your own. This is not confidence. Once again, this is calibration. Come on. We can't say that we haven't seen it. This is why I like the style of content that I bring to you guys, because it's not rage baiting, because it is not gender rage baiting or ethnic rage baiting or whatever. A lot of people will not jump into what I'm saying. So, which is like I said before, I'd rather have the people who actually can engage in it than a whole bunch of people that are just sitting here just to hear trigger words. You know what I mean? I love that, because I'm hoping that the people that are here, the people that do listen to my kind of content, will actually engage in a way that will benefit not just their own thought processes of their own life, but also the people that's going to be around them. And I mean real world, because the internet is not the real world. When you leave, when you turn this shit off, when you rest your head, when you deal with your spouse, when you deal with your kids, hopefully you're going to pick up something that's going to help you out. Because if the internet went away tomorrow, how would you cope? How would you cope? In fact, here's a great example, right? I've mentioned this many times. How many people, because I just talked about calibration, right? How many people do not, N-O-T not, show up in a room to be able to have a conversation, to be able to listen to something that could be beneficial to them, simply because there are not enough people in the chat. They have no idea what the stream's about to be about. They have no idea if it's about to be good. They only value being in a room that is surrounded by a bunch of people that's in it. By the way, this is how a lot of people also fell into bot rooms. So long as they see inflated numbers, they're there. Not that anyone's really saying anything important. Not that anyone's saying anything that follows along with the subject. They will come in, see, oh, there's only 2, 3 people, 4, 5, 6, 10 people, whatever. I'm leaving. But let them step into a room that says 30, 100, whatever. They're like, I'm there. But I do see some of you creators as well who will have 60 people in a chat and nobody talking. How is it that you are the king or queen lurker? How do you have a channel where almost everybody who's watching you is simply lurking? I highly question that. Especially if you did not turn the chats off. How do you have so many people watching you and no chat buzz, nothing is buzzing in the chat? How? Exactly. That's exactly the truth. But these are the people that'll stick around. They'll stick around. And let's be honest, some of you guys, you don't think. Because you'll sit around going, well, there's 64 people in here, but nobody's talking. And then you'll leave, you'll come back, you refresh your screen because you think that something is wrong inside the chat. You'll refresh your screen thinking like, damn, do I have an ad blocker or something going on? Because I don't see no movement in the chat. But you see the numbers, but you'll still stick around. You're like, well, maybe maybe a moderator or maybe the host said, maybe they froze the chat, or maybe the shit is so fire they told everybody not to speak. So I'm also not gonna speak. By the way, what did we just say? People who come in and now they start putting shit everywhere. Why isn't everybody else talking? Why isn't everybody else doing this? Why isn't what's going on? Maybe it's this, maybe it's that, maybe it's that. What do you think though? What do you think? You start calibrating to the room that you're in, and you start immediately conforming. But you conform based on your very initial standard that you created yourself that can easily be overwritten. I don't want to be in a room that has low people in it. But you can find a room that has a lot of people creating actions, and you can walk into a room that's full of nothing but bots. How would you know the difference? I've seen creator streams that have a shit ton of people flowing through the fucking chat, right? And I see them not addressing any of these people. And I've seen people who actually done the work, they've been online for a while, who their chats are fucking zooming by, just continuously scrolling. And they managed to find a way to still be able to engage these people. I say congrats to them because they've been doing it for a while. I don't think the average person really considers where they are, what really classifies as a proper stream, let me do that air quotes, proper stream, and how to adjust. And just also to be honest, why are you there? Are you there because the person looks good? Are you there because the person is known to actually have a good topic? Are you there because honestly, you have an obsession, and you could take that whatever you like. You have a fetish, you have an obsession, you have, for whatever it is. Maybe you like people who are tall, dark, and handsome. Maybe you like people who wear braces. Maybe you like scrolling by and see someone who's live and they have nice big tits. Maybe you like BBWs. Like maybe whatever the reason that got you from the thumbnail onto the actual stream, But the question is, what keeps you there? You're right. You're a stalker. But here's the thing about that. Here's the thing about this. If you're a stalker, you have to be initially stimulated by either your intrigue or your hatred to become a stalker. I have talked to stalkers, right? Both in real life and mostly online, but I've talking to stalkers in real life. I've had stalkers in real life. But I have spoken to stalkers over the phone. I have spoken to stalkers in public, and I have spoken to many more online. There must be an initial intrigue first. By the way, the initial intrigue doesn't even have to be over the person that they're stalking, right? So, for instance, if I meet a young lady, and she decides that she wants to stalk me, right? I may not be her intended target. She's stalking me. She's getting to know me. She's trying to build a relationship with me, maybe to get close to someone else who I have noticed, who I have on my circle. It could be that. It's using me to get to them. But regardless of what it is, there's some people that stalk because I know nothing about him or I have nothing about her, but I think they're huge. I think they're so attractive. And they do that. They stay there. I don't care what's flying out of their mouths. I just think they're so hot. They're stalking in that way. I just think about having kids with them, and I think about what kind of husband or wife that they would be. And I just think about, and I'm just like, so do you even remember what they were wearing? No, I was envisioning what they would wear, like on the wedding day, or if we had a date. Or you have many people who are like this. They are adjusting themselves based on who's watching. Keep in mind, they will walk into a room and adjust whether they should be in the room based on their initial thought process of, if this a room I'm worthy of being in. And their first visual thoughts, their first initial thoughts, not visual thoughts, well, no, actually visual thoughts as well, is that it needs to qualify as having enough people for me to be able to say, I can get attention from. I can't get enough attention with only 4 people in a room. I can't get enough attention with only 12 people in a room, which is crazy because it's 12 more people than you would have had any other time. But I think I can get attention if there's 60, 50, 40, 100, 80, 2,000, 1,000 people in the room. You think you're going to get attention? And then I don't understand that people who turn around and they do things like, I'm going to keep spamming and adding the creator. Because now I'm in a room that has a lot of people in the room, right? A lot of people in the room. But I don't want the attention of everybody else in the room. I need the attention of the creator. It's just not, it's not good enough. Nothing's gonna get you more wet than having the creator themselves acknowledge me. Attention seeking behavior. So when I talk about these things, like people go, yeah, I don't like this. I don't like the fact that this man is calling out a lot of behavior that a lot of people have, including yours truly. And I go, well, if you don't like that, exercise that button to save your soul. Save your soul. I don't know why I just had that song just pop in my head, and I can't remember who sung that song. Who will save your soul? I don't know. I forgot her name. Damn. But for some reason, when I just said that, that song popped in my head. Like, you had a question. Your question was, why is it important to consider why they are doing what they are doing? It is not important to consider it because I'll be honest, I don't give a fuck. It is important that people consider themselves to think about why they are doing what they are doing. I think some people do things because they believe that's just what people are supposed to do. I think some people do things because they are mimicking what a particular archetype is supposed to do. There are some people that just believe that they're funny because they're around a lot of people who are funny, not because they are actually funny. I have been around accountants, right, who are drier than the bottom of a fucking well. Like, they are dry, bone dry. But because they are around people who are uplifting and very social, whatever, they try to crack jokes too. And people look at them like, okay, cool. And then have you ever seen this become comedians? Comedians have had so many times of being around people who are funny and things like that they don't laugh at jokes. Not because they don't think they're funny. They hear a joke and people are laughing. They're like, that's funny. But they're not laughing. Not that they don't find humor in it. They are used to humor. So they're just like, that's funny. That would hit. That's actually pretty good. But they're not losing their fucking shit over it. Different stimuli based on the situation. Again, calibration. It's being within who you are versus what you're exposed to. And I think a lot of people are too busy focused on who they should be, not who they are. Because who they should be is based on what they're consistently exposed to. Something to think about. And everybody does that a little bit. Not everybody wants to stay there, but I think everybody does that a little bit. But I'm also talking about the people who don't know who they are until they don't know who they are until they know who's looking. I'm referring to these people because that's a bit different. I need to be known as the troll. I need to be known as the smartest person in the room. I need to be known as the cute one. I need to be known as the guy who drops a lot of money in the community. I need to be known as. They're trying to have everyone else look at them and revere them as a particular person, even though it's most than likely not to be true. Not only is that different, but also it's exhausting. It's exhausting. Because now your personality has to become, honestly, customer service. That's your personality now. You're trying to satisfy an audience that changes every room that you walk into. And eventually, you forgot who you're supposed to be within all this. You forget who you're supposed to be when no one's actually around. Let me ask you guys something. Who are you when nobody needs anything from you? Who are you? Not family, not friends, not coworkers, not your followers, not your audience, not the camera, just you. Who is that person? Who are you? And if that question is difficult to answer, why? Oh, we got Josh in the building. What's going on? We got cousin Lawrence in the building as well. It's just something to think about. No Chases in the building. You said nobody. No Chases said nobody. Are you saying that you're nobody? I'm asking the question. Like the question is, who are you when these things are not around? Or if you're saying nobody, that's a very interesting answer. Because who are you when nobody needs anything from you? And you know what? Some people might say that nobody. So that's you? Okay. All right. That's cool. You're an autistic artist. I don't know many artists that are not autistic in some way or another. I don't know anyone who's not on some kind of spectrum or somewhere. Now, I want to get into this whole thing about because I think there's something when we talk about needing other people, right? This idea, if you can't remember the topic itself, it's the audience that's in your head. I want to get into permission. The permission that you never thought that you needed. Or rather, the permission you never need. The permission you never needed is what's in my head. The permission you never needed. I want you to think about this, because I think that one of the saddest things I've ever watched people do is ask for permission. They're asking for permission without asking permission. Let me explain. Have you ever wanted to do something, and before you even started, you already talked yourself out of it? Not because you couldn't do it, but because you started imagining what everybody else was going to think. I probably look stupid. They're going to laugh. They are going to think I'm too old. They are going to think I'm trying too hard. Got questions. Who's they? Who are they? Can you point them out? Often the answer is no. But somehow they still got a vote. They still got a mental vote in your head. That's crazy when you really sit down to think about it. People who aren't even present in the moment are making decisions in your life. I don't know about y'all, but that's giving strangers a lot of power. Let me ask you something. What's something that you've wanted to do for years, but you keep putting off? Ask yourself something harder. What's actually stopping you? Not the excuse, the real reason. What is stopping you? I don't think it is. I don't think it's normal. I think people are conditioned. I don't think it's normal. It's in your own head. It's like you're shaming yourself when you don't even know if the act of you doing so will be shameful. That can't be normal. If you were at a public pool, it's a pool, by the way, and you're like, I don't want to take off my towel and swim because people are gonna think that I'm ugly, or people are gonna think that I'm fat, or people are gonna see me and I can't really swim well, so I'm gonna be doing a weird doggy paddle, and all these different reasons, which stops you from getting in the pool, which is the entire reason that you went to the public pool in the first place, to swim. That's not normal. That's your own self-conditioning. Because can you say that you had experienced that in the past? I would say that a lot of people are going to say no. And let's just say, well, I have experienced that because of my family, right? So if you went without your family, nobody knows who you are now. If these are the things floating around your head, aren't you victimizing yourself at that point? You're not walking around with a survey clip. So, hey, Mr. So-and-so in the white trunks, are you about to laugh at me if I take off my robe, or take off my towel? And no. It really comes down to your insecurities. And a lot of people don't even want to think about the audience in their head is really based on a lot of insecurities. And then let's also talk about why the audience never seems to leave your head. I think people believe that confidence means you stop caring what people think. For a long time, even I thought that's what it really meant. But that's not true. I don't believe that anymore. I haven't believed that for quite some time. I think that confidence is knowing whose opinions actually deserve space in your head? Let me say that again. Whose opinions actually deserve to have space in your head? Because not everybody should get a vote, or at least they shouldn't. Like I said, they shouldn't. Not everybody gets a vote in your head, or at least they shouldn't. Some random person who is walking by in life or scrolling by on your content, why does that person get to influence how you see yourself? Why is that a thing? Who decided that that gets to be a thing? You know, it's the aspect of when people turn around and say, you got me mad. It's like, no, you heard something you didn't like and you decided to become mad. The same way I'm so mad at the news. The news is the news, whether it's good news or bad news. How you choose to interpret it is the ultimate meaning. People here can hear bad news all the time and just be like, okay, all right. Sometimes it's just your responsibility to just listen. You don't need to really have a point. You don't really need to try to give a solution. Sometimes it's just to listen. You and think about it when it comes to being online. People that you don't know, people that you never met, you're allowing them to give votes in your life. Why do they get to decide whether you're embarrassed? Who gave them that authority? You did. That's the uncomfortable part. Nobody stole authority. You gave it to them. You willfully handed it over. One thought at a time, one imagination, one imaginative thought, one imaginative conversation at a time. One, what if I think this, think that at a time? Until one day, you're living according to people who don't even know you or your life. And people do this a lot. You know, you're in here really late. You're in here really late, but you're doing what we covered earlier. You're doing it. You're doing an action that we covered earlier. And that doesn't have anything to do with the conversation. You should at least try to catch up to what we're talking about, please, before you think that you're going to derail. So let me ask you guys something. Or rather, name three people whose opinions actually matter to you. Just three. You don't need to go through your whole list of trees, everybody that you trust or whatever, but just three people whose opinions actually matter to you. And then after that, right? How many people are you trying to actually impress in your life? Trying to keep good standings with in your life? I bet you those numbers don't match between the people that you want to impress versus the people whose opinions matter the most to you. I gave this a little bit of a survey to people outside in the real world, and it was so interesting. You said your parents? Okay. Now, to tie things back around, because it's not fair to really point out so many different areas of so many different people and so many different thoughts or styles, especially when we talk about the audience in our head. So let's talk about this channel, right? Let's talk about my channel, because I think it's only fair that I try to make this a bit personal, because this is something I have been thinking about with this channel. I realize I don't want to build content around people who need an audience. I've been showcasing that for over a year now. I don't want to build a room where everybody is trying to become part of the show. I've been watched what happens when people do that. The discussions start becoming background noise. The personalities become the attraction. The same people show up on a regular basis, and it's no longer about everyone's thoughts and opinions or any people who can come up to give theirs, because only the regulars are assumed, because people put thoughts in their heads, are the only ones who are allowed to show up. The same arguments happen. The same little stories keep popping up. Everybody knows who's going to interrupt who. Everybody knows who's going to disagree. Everybody knows who's going to make it about themselves. And after a while, nobody remembers what the actual topic is. They remember the people. And that's never the thing that I ever wanted from the beginning. From the beginning of when I first decided to go and live stream, which was way back in 2023. I don't want nor need people leaving here talking about who won. I don't want nor need people leaving here thinking who was saying what, rather than thinking about what the question was. That's why I've made so much strives to make sure we change and try to make sure that we stay on the subject. This is the reason why I lean on things like an open forum rather than an open panel, because it isn't about replacing people that I have to talk to, but I realize that having too many people around is just like having too many cooks in the kitchen. Everyone eventually fucks up the dish. It's replacing the mass amount of opinions at one time versus the smaller amount of bite-sized opinions that people can take. I don't care if people hear themselves talk. I care whether they're actually listening. That's the difference. That's a huge difference, by the way. If someone can't sit through a conversation without trying to become the center of it, they're probably looking for a different kind of room. There are already plenty of those that are out there. I don't need to be just one more. And I guess I'll ask you guys, when you leave my streams, what is it that you do remember? Do you remember me? Do you remember the conversation? Because all of you, because if all of you remember is the personalities, then honestly, I think that is a channel that's failed. If there is a topic, a direction, a thought process, a lot of work being put into it. But people can only remember the yahoos that pop up. The stream has failed. If you want, or rather, I should say this, I want you guys leaving with questions in your mind. I want you guys leaving with ideals in your mind. I want you guys doing introspection when it comes to your mind. I don't want you leaving with characters in your mind. Which is why I'm typically okay with the quietest of rooms, because I want to leave you with a lasting thought. Let's say tomorrow every social media platform disappeared. No YouTube, no TikTok, no Instagram, no X, no Facebook, no nothing. Who would you be? Seriously, who would you be? Would you still dress the same? Would you still talk the same? Would you still chase the same goals? Would you still hold the same opinions? Or would your life look completely different? Because if it would, then maybe, perhaps, social media isn't where the audience lives. Maybe the audience moved in a long time ago. Maybe that's why people can sit in a room and completely be by themselves. To sit in a crowded room and to still say that I am still by myself and still feel judged. Nobody's really looking. Nobody's really listening. Nobody even knows what they're doing. Yet, people are out there feeling embarrassed. Embarrassed in front of who, though? That's the audience that I'm talking about. The one that never leaves. The one that never needs to log in. The one that doesn't need Wi-Fi to exist. The one you've been carrying around possibly for years. And I want you to answer this one thing for yourself. Don't even put it in the chat. Be honest with you. Don't put it in the chat. That's not something you want to do. Who has the loudest voice in your head? Because likely it isn't yours. And I want you to think about that. Who has the loudest voice in your head? Because somebody came to mind immediately. You don't have to say who. Let's see what's going on with some of you guys are saying here in the chat. Okay. You said the audience in your head are musky, or is that supposed to be mostly dead? Mostly. Okay, gotcha. You said it's not a conversation. Okay. Interesting. He said the center gets really crowded. Let's see. He said you left the other night wondering why you take call-ins. I've talked to the first. If you're saying me specifically, because many people do call-ins. My entire platform has been about speaking to people about things that are, and again, if you're new to the channel, it's all about speaking to people about perspectives or things that are really normal to people, natural to people, and things that are not things that can be solved, to put it that way. No. I'm answering you because you're kind of new to my channel, and I've been doing this for years. So you haven't really been around to see a show that I had called Opinionated, which started out a very particular way, went a different direction because we had a whole bunch of things that happened, and then I was eventually bringing it back. But unfortunately, we discovered, developed. Oof, that's a really harsh word to bring forth on it. Discovered and had people grown into what they would like things to be and not what the things really were. But me in general, as the host, as the architect of how the platform runs, I've always been interested in speaking to people because that's what it is. And because, notably, it's like this, Witchy. Is it easier or fast flowing to have conversations via text or conversations that are actually live? I would rather have a conversation on my phone than to sit endless hours texting. You get more context, you get more clues, you get tone, you get people can clarify themselves. Emojis are not sitting there to just be guessing what people are going through. People get more of their original thoughts and their premise or their feelings out into the open and a conversation than the vagueness that can happen between an actual chat. And the same thing, there's also another thing as well. A lot of people think that even when they start having a conversation with a particular person, especially as they have a larger following, you could put it that way, then they come to this thing where they're now having a personal conversation between the creator and them, but now other people are left out. Like, I think a lot of people in the chat think of this as a large circle or like a comedy thing, right? Like I'm standing there with the mic and I'm like, hey, so what's going on? So what you do? And I'm doing a bit or whatever with you, and then I stop and I gotta say, who else got a great idea? Well, that's not what this is. That's not what this is at all. And I think a lot of people may even look at it that way. And I think a lot of people also don't respect the time that not only that they're putting into their participation within the channel, but also that there are other people there who also have questions, who also have statements or ideas or thoughts that can open them up to, I didn't even think to ask that. Damn, I thought my question or I thought that my statement was good, but I didn't even hear what other people even thought. Because what they do instead is that they hog the whole room up. And then people who were like, there's no way I'm going to get seen because so-and-so is spamming the fucking chat. I'll never be able to ask a question or whatever. So I do an open call-in for people to be able to give their opinions. But then you also leave yourself vulnerable as a host because there are too many people who have such strong attention-seeking behavior that they don't know what it's like to be a person because they're trying to calibrate. They're being somebody else. They're being a character. So they think it's about attention. Even if it's the, look at me, mom, I'm on TV, 5 seconds, 3 seconds. It's like, And the same thing. I said it to so many people. If your aspect of, say, even like trolling, things like that, if that is your premise, when people no longer wish to make it available for people to have conversations, or if that very creator decides they want to walk away, you have nowhere else to go. Now you got to go all out in the atmosphere to go look for somebody else, because quite frankly, you're the reason why you would be the reason why things can no longer be entertaining. You ruin entertainment because you believe that you are something that you've given no actual practice to your values on. I've had plenty of people, like I say, people who are trolls. I've had plenty of people troll me, being funny or even being smart. And then there are people that just like, I just want to derail. I just want to make the topic not about the topic. And they say, okay, cool. So you don't want to make the topic be about the topic. What do you want to talk about? And when they're given the opportunity, they're fucking lost. It's like having Jehovah's Witness or Mormons come to your door. They're expecting to have the door slammed on them. So when you say, fuck it, I'm just tired of it, come inside. And they're like, I didn't expect to get this far. I don't know what to talk about. And then you have to promptly kick them out and ban them. That's all. Because now that you're given an opportunity, you fucked it up. If you get a creator banned, if you get a creator's platform taken away or whatever, you still have one less place to go. That's not a mission accomplished. That's one less place that you can visit. That's a fail. That's an L. That's an L. That's not a success. That's an L. Because that creator can just start a new page. If the following is real true, they're going to all go there. They're all going to go there. And everything you did was for nothing. But that's really if you know what you're doing as a creator, just to be honest. You said you understand the point of the show. And you know what? That depends on pretend that goes specifically as to what you find that is entertaining. That's just really what it comes down to. Some people just like to watch people. I never understood people that like to sit down aimlessly for hours watching people react to other people's content, reaction content or whatever. Like, I just don't understand that. Yes, you might want a personality who has a different spin on it, whatever, but I would rather see the original work and then form my own opinions rather than just watch somebody else respond to something that somebody else went out their way to actually create. And I'd rather have people that actually have a conversation about things that really matter, not the shit that don't matter no more. And I said maybe at one point they did matter, but they no longer do. So when I'm hearing people argue about dick and pussy conversations, it no longer matters. It no longer matters. Either you're gonna get yours and you're going to acquiesce to getting whatever you need from it, and you're gonna make decisions, or you're going to make concessions to get a relationship to actually work, or you're not. Same thing about politicians. It doesn't matter, because the most of you guys who sit there and complain about it, I hear that you guys don't vote, or you're not politically engaging enough to actually make a difference. So that doesn't matter. For you guys who sit there and aimlessly keep going back and forth about religion, none of you guys are going to know the truth until you die. So that doesn't even matter. So I talk about the things that do matter, the things that people can actually start making incremental changes on today. You're not going to make incremental changes on religion. You're not going to make incremental changes on politicians, especially if you're not willing to go run for any type of office yourself. You're not making anything, but you can start making baby steps on how you view the world and how you view situations and how you view your communication when it comes to other people. Arguing about a drain that keeps circling makes no sense. But having a conversation about things that you can actually start making actionable steps on later is important. This is why most people don't really want to sit there and have a conversation about making money, because the truth of the matter is that they're all broke and they all don't want to talk about it, but they can all make a change tomorrow. They can all start making baby steps tomorrow. But to argue about something that no one will ever get an answer with, like religion or politics or things like that, doesn't matter. The same way how I don't understand, like I've run into men offline and online that will sit there and complain about women, but they're in loving, good relationships. Like, I don't understand how do you have grown men that have a great relationship and everything else, great wife, kids, all that other stuff, but they go online to argue with other men that don't have relationships. Like, I don't get it. You're good. Why would you even bother wasting your time? Well, I want them to have what I have. Why? Why do you care so much about their dick? Why do you care so much about her vagina? Who made you that person? Who said it was your responsibility? You're not a village elder. That's not your... If you won, take your winnings and run. Like, take your winnings and run. Just like I find it extremely weird when single guys are out there policing other guys' dicks. Why do you care about where my dick goes? You care about who I empty out in or don't empty out in or whatever. Why do you care so much? Worry about yourself. I don't think about you. Why are you out here thinking about me? But yet, people find this to be entertaining because I don't know. You weren't here for the beginning. I literally laid out an entire thing that I talked about. And I'm sorry, like, but if you want to catch up to it, rewatch it when the stream's over, whatever. But I'm not gonna break down a whole bunch of stuff. Like, I know people like expect that, but that's not the way it happens. But I spoke at length of how people have audience in their heads. And I gave different examples, by the way, as well. The different styles of how people are always fixated on an audience, even an audience that is not there presently, whether in real life or online. I gave multiple examples. But I'm sorry, I can't be doing a refresh because people walk in a little bit later, especially when it's so late in the game. And I guess I'll close it. Like, I'll close it. I'll think about closing real quick for you guys. How do I want to end this if I wanted to end this? So people can sit there and we've been almost 2 hours in the game. I want to make sure people can actually catch something on the replay so that we can have a conversation with this on our next stream. I'll close it out like this. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't think most people are... I don't think a lot of people are living their own lives. I think a lot of people are managing impressions. I think a lot of people are negotiating with ghosts. Ghosts of old conversations, ghosts of old relationships, ghosts of old criticisms, ghosts of people that they haven't spoken to in years, ghosts of audiences that never existed anymore. And every day, those ghosts, for some reason, gets a vote. Not because that they've earned it, but because we keep inviting them into our rooms, into our headspace. I don't think that that is a sense of freedom. I think that's that's I don't think that's confidence. I really don't. I think that's just a habit that people put up. But you have to ask yourself when that habit actually got formed and why do you continue with it? Some of you have spent years trying to become acceptable to people you wouldn't even think to ask for directions. Can we just be honest? Think about that. You guys will likely give someone way too much power, but if you were walking past them and you didn't know where to go, you wouldn't stop to ask them for directions. And somehow you've given emotional authority to strangers, especially for those who are online. You've handed over pieces of your life to people who couldn't recognize you if they walked past you tomorrow. And for what? Approval? Attention? Acceptance? Maybe. But here's what is bothering me. If you're constantly asking an audience who you should be, when do you ever get to meet yourself? Not the version that gets applause, not the version that avoids criticism, not the version that knows exactly what to say in every room that he or she goes to. You, the person that's left after the audience has gone home, after you've ended the stream. Who are you? Because sooner or later, everybody leaves. The comments stop. The likes stop. The arguments stop. The applause stops. The criticism stops. And eventually, you're sitting in a quiet room. No one else, just you. No performance, no witnesses, no imaginary jury, just you. And I think that's the person most people spend the least amount of time getting to know. That is the conversation, or rather, that's what this conversation was really about from the beginning. Wasn't about social media, wasn't about creators, wasn't about even, to be honest with you, attention. This is really about ownership, our own thoughts, our own decisions, who gets a vote within our lives. And maybe, just maybe, the person that you've been trying the hardest to convince is somebody who was never watching in the first place. And I appreciate you guys' time for actually being here. Thank you for that. Thank you for the 10. I'll leave you guys with that. And until then, take care of yourselves, and I'll see you on the next stream, and we'll dive a little bit more into this, and maybe, or maybe not, we'll have people have a conversation about it. We will see. Later, y'all.